So I got all dolled up, and I guess by dolled up in mom world, that is washing my hair and stuff. But oh, now I look bald. Damn. Also mom problems. And I was gonna make my video on my fancy camera and make it all like YouTubey and stuff, but yeah, being a one-woman army is not going like I planned. I am constantly trying to superwoman shit by myself, and then I get frustrated when it doesn't go the way I want to because it's technically not a job for one person. I think that is probably a good definition of shadow work, which is what I want to talk about today because welcome. Shadow work is recognizing your triggers, sitting with them, figuring out why it's such an issue, and getting to the bottom of it, the root of it, because chances are the root is beyond what just the situation is. It probably leads back to some childhood stuff, and that's just the way these things work. If you get into Hellenistic astrology, that means that you are looking at your cycles. The Hellenistic charts actually continue from 0 through 82, so you know exactly what year and what lesson is coming around, and they are based upon the setting of the first 12 years. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Jehovah's Witnesses, but they have a saying that after 13 you're on your own, and now I understand why. Which is sort of unfair because, I mean, the things that happen to you during the first 12 years are sort of not your fault, but I guess we're supposed to overcome them and become better people. But in the realm we're at, that is not exactly how this works. We are in a system designed to keep us entrapped in our vices and our traumas so that we don't reach our full potential. That is not anything to do with God, per se. I don't know what term you guys use, universe, spirit, but you can't say the universe without encompassing the fact that there is a whole dark entity. There's a dark energy that feeds off of sadness and anger and frustration and pain and blood and all that sort of icky stuff in life. That is who is currently in charge of this realm that we're in. And I know it's a crappy thing to have to think about, but it sort of puts things in perspective. We are here as a test. If you want to look into it more, it's called the Luciferian experiment. That belief is, or Lucifer's belief is, that us humans, anytime that we are offered the option to do evil, we will do it. We will go against everything that is in us that stops us from being evil or doing bad per se. Or I categorize evil or bad as things that go against our intuition, that infringe upon somebody else's free will, or that make us feel crappy after we do them. Like, have you ever had a crush on a guy and you really liked him, but you weren't ready to sleep with him, but then you slept with him because you thought hey, that would get you some bonus points, but you felt really trash afterwards? Maybe that's a bad example. But whatever, it happens. All right, how about a diet? Have you ever been on a diet and you've been doing really good, and then one day you got in your feelings and binged and then just felt like crap afterwards? That sort of thing. That keeps you in your cycles. And if you're interested in knowing more of what your shadow is astrologically, you would look at your Lilith placement, your Pluto, where your Saturn is, and anything in the 8th house, because the 8th house is just the house where all the dark, seedy, unhappy stuff goes, unfortunately. But it's nice that you can sort of clump them in there. You might look at the 12th house that way too, but the 12th house is the exit. Anyways, back to shadow work. So, me figuring out this one-woman army thing, the process I'm about to go through with you guys so you get an idea of how to disarm your triggers. So I tried to set up my camera. I couldn't get it to focus on me. I got upset. All right. My next thought was, I can't do all this shit by myself. So where did that start? I woke up this morning and my husband took too long in the bathroom. I had a whole bunch of stuff to do, so technically I already started off sort of frustrated. Let's take that even further, because that's a surface trigger. And that's the thing, you have to be honest with yourself, is that really the root issue here? Right now, his schedule is sort of free. He gets to do whatever he wants, and I sort of am holding down the fort. So that is the next layer. Am I frustrated about that? Yes. because I'm tired a lot. And there are so many things I need help with that I don't know how to delegate tasks because it's my business, or do I want to delegate tasks because it is my business, it's my baby, and I enjoy having a thing to myself. So where did this feeling start? I want help, but I don't want to ask for help because I want it to be my thing. And I also don't like the idea of having to ask anybody for help. Where does this go? Let's chase this down the barrel. I am the oldest child, so independence was really a thing. I probably almost technically raised my siblings. They are 4 years and 8 years younger than me. I remember changing my baby brother's diaper. I got a lot of just figure it out, or you know what you're doing when you're younger, because I was always smart, but it was because I had to be. So maybe that's it. That's a good start, and this is where I would go journal about this. Why do I take on so many burdens? Where did this start? How do I begin to break this pattern in a healthy way? What negative things am I still holding on to? Do they no longer serve? Is this still the situation here? These are all things you ask yourself when you're working on shadow work, because shadow work is the process of undoing the damage that has been done to you by people who didn't even know they were doing damage. I mean, in some cases they might have, but on the most case, your parents are just doing the best they can because their parents did the best they could, and they sort of ended up this way. My mom got pregnant with me when she was 18 in order to get out of her mom's house. She can't ever say if she was particularly in love with my father, but he was a nice guy who was willing to take care of her. That lasted until I was 2. She got caught cheating on him. He wanted to take her back, but she didn't want to take him back because I honestly don't think she ever loved him in the first place. So from that point on, she struggled, and she had 2 more kids. She struggled to work. She struggled in an abusive relationship. We didn't have babysitters. I was the babysitter, which was quite jarring that early in life. We struggled. We moved a lot. We were poor. Like, there's a lot there. So, and my father got remarried as quickly as possible because he's sort of like a marriage junkie, I guess. He really loves love. And he's been married for like 30 years now, I think. My stepmother was trash. But, I mean, they were married 30 years, and I guess she was only trash because her mom raised her in a way that was sort of Southern and abusive and stuff. But getting to the point of understanding why people were how they were gives you a form of freedom. It takes away the blame game, because forever pointing the finger at other people, you never get to solve the problem inside. What did it change about you? How is that a strength now? How can you make it a strength if it is not already? Because living in the cycles of what happened in the first 12 years and feeling that pain forever isn't healthy, and it's what keeps a lot of us from thriving, honestly. Remembering, like, I honestly can say I am turning 35 this year, and every year up until like 33, when I spent some time alone with my mom, I actually took her on a cruise because I was curious. I wanted to know who my mom really was. Like, as an adult, I wanted to see if I had an accurate idea of her when I was a child. And I spent a week with her on the cruise, and I very quickly realized no one should have ever given this woman children. No, like, literally. I lost her on the ship at one point. She peed on herself. She was talking to strangers because she got too drunk, and I realized the whole time my mom had a drinking problem, and I never acknowledged it because it was so regular in my life. It was just my mom. I didn't realize that this was some stuff that she probably was dealing with from childhood too. So just painting people in one color limits yourself to be painted in one color. Sometimes we hold on to a narrative that brings us the most comfort as well, because it makes sense for the suffering we endured. But that's not going to help us grow, is it? Like, there are some situations where it's really shitty, like, in trigger warning, because, I mean, like, somebody was molested by a parent. Might turn out that parent was molested by somebody too. So it's disgusting behavior, but psychologically, your brain is mutated physically, chemically. When things like this happen to you, traumas change who you are as a person. And that's why shadow work is important, because if not, these traumas begin to fester. I spent some time and I looked over documentaries about people who did drugs, people who committed crimes, rapists, molesters, and all that. And the current thing, or the current common thread I saw, was something had all happened to them when they were little. Like the rapist had been raped by several men when he was younger. Even the crackhead lady, her dad had touched her. Like everything comes from something happened to you in that first 12 years that your mind can't pull back together. Shadow work is taking those situations, pulling them apart, absolving yourself of any guilt that you have there, forgiving the person who committed the crime, not saying that it wasn't a monstrous act, but understanding that there are things that some people can't overcome, and you are choosing to overcome. You have the opportunity to overcome because you are in this course, for one, but you are already looking for a way to let go of that pain. Some people don't want to let go of it. Some people like to live in it because it gives them an excuse not to go after what they really want to go after. And that's what I want to help everyone here with. This is going to be about uprooting the things that we have sort of buried or left behind, but also about embracing the positive things in ourselves and understanding that it does not matter how old you are. You can still chase your dream. Nothing bothers me more than when somebody says, I used to do A, B, C, and D, but I had to let that dream go. That is the whole setup of this Lucifer experiment. Because if you forget about the gifts you're given, you focus on the traumas and you become stuck in the cycle of working for somebody else in a way that makes you unhappy. You get into the cycle of wake up, work, come home, eat, sleep. You might have 2 days that you get to actually do what you like, and by then you're too tired to do what you actually enjoy. And it's all a trick. We all came here to do what we love. If you have a skill, don't let that die. Pick up that piece of paper again. Start writing, start drawing, start dancing. Maybe if you can't physically be the ballerina you wanted to be anymore, maybe you can teach. It's just our minds have become our limitations. And that is the main thing we're going to be working on here. Pulling back the pieces and removing the limitations, because your shadow only consists of the parts of you that you pushed away because you became afraid of them, because you thought nobody wanted to see them, because you felt like every time you brought out that part of yourself, somebody else had something to say and you just don't want to hear it anymore. But you lost a part of yourself, and believe me, every single part of yourself, even the traumatized parts, have a purpose. Because honestly, the traumatized parts, once you dig through them and you're able to grit it out and cry it out and push it, that's where a lot of your strength comes. Turning that darkness into light is the goal here. And pulling back all the parts that you thought were gone, because they're not. You just got tricked into letting them go. Somebody else became a victim to their demons, which created those that got passed down to you, and that's what generational curses are. You ever notice in some families how it's a long line of single women, like they were married but their husband left them from other women? That is a generational demon. That is a generational curse, something that has gone on over and over again. You might notice the men are all cheaters, or you might notice poverty, which is also like a deep curse, especially in certain areas. I just learned yesterday that not only did black people come over in boats as slaves, but European also came over in boats as what they called indentured servants. And they had to work for free for several years just to pay for the boat ride they took over. They also did this to the prisoners. If the prisoners did something wrong, instead of putting them in jail at a certain point, they put them on this boat and gave them indentured servitude for life. So it's not exactly the same as slavery, because these people were straight up kidnapped, which is a whole different ordeal. But the same thing of having to work for free and ending up being the poor people in this country. The people who benefited were the ones who had the houses and the plantations and were able to hold everybody else under their toe. So a lot of us of all colors are dealing with generational poverty and the curse of being treated like shit by rich people. It has put a cap on our minds. And going forward, I am going to work on not only helping you guys disarm your triggers, but also to start pulling back the good stuff, because I want everybody to be able to manifest the life they want and find the childhood joy that we once had. This is about reparenting your inner child, like the same way that you care for your babies if you have kids, or if you would have kids, the same way that you would take everything that happened to you and say that would never happen to my baby, and you go out of your way to be the best parent. That's how you need to be to yourself. How do you talk to yourself in your head? Are you repeating the voice that you would want to hear when you were younger? Or are you repeating the voice of the person who mistreated you? These are all things that you have to go through. And this week's prompt was, what is one thing you're grateful for? Because that's where the center of manifestation comes from. Yes, we have these past and these things that happen, but right here in this moment, when you take a deep breath, what's the problem? Is there a problem in this moment? For the next 10 seconds as you're sitting here listening to me, is there a problem? Hold on to that peace, because it is so hard to find all the time. All you need is that 10 seconds to breathe and think about one thing you're grateful for. Like, did you have a meal today? Is there a roof over your head? Are all your utilities on? Just that one moment, that one shot makes a difference. And especially if you write it down. And this is from a metaphysical perspective and a magical and just a all around make yourself feel better perspective. Mindfulness, realizing that in this moment, yeah, shit has happened to me, but I survived, and right now I'm okay, and every day is an opportunity to make it better. If you haven't watched Russian Doll, watch Russian Doll. That shows you that every day is an opportunity to make stuff better. I just really wanted to give you the ground level, the base of what shadow work is and how we're going to be doing it. And I want you to be able to do it on your own. So I feel like I gave you a really good example. I would love if you guys would post your own example videos below so that it'll help everybody else out, because we're a team here. But doing it in your journaling too. Don't forget to journal gratitude. I personally try to, the first thing I do before my feet hit the floor in the morning is I think about one thing I'm grateful for, and it really changes the tone. Well, not today because my husband pissed me off. But, if I had been thankful that we had a tub to be in, then maybe I wouldn't be so irritated right now. It is an ongoing process, and sometimes it can feel like woo-woo bullshit. But honestly, the love and light stuff works, guys. It really does. And you'd be amazed how much abundance and how much your life can change just by you changing your attitude for a minute. It actually draws stuff in. Let me know if y'all have any questions below. And I'm actually thinking about how would you guys feel about me going live for an hour on Sundays instead of doing the text chat, because that's what I feel. Maybe if I go live and we just talk over the prompt for the week, maybe anything that's going on in the world right now that might have been triggering or anything like that. Let me know.